Hi guys, still good morning, just gone 11:30 here in London, so I'm just going to do a quick run through of what's happened this morning and what could happen for the remainder of the day, sort of driving market price. We had this morning the retail sales out of the UK, which is actually worse than expected. I can just drag that into picture here in the summary. Here you've got a bit of a miss on all the core month-on-month, year-on-year, and just the retail sales flat then month-on-month, year-on-year. A bit of a miss of expected figures here. If we go then to look at the chart and go to 9:30, limited reaction. If anything, you'd obviously expect pounds to come down here. But for anyone that did listen to Anthony this morning, and myself yesterday, talking about the pound data, is it really going to be moving off these type of figures? Retail sales we know is a volatile one anyway, that the reaction was most likely to be limited anyway. We've had a bit of a break of this trend line going back from the high of the week into yesterday's high, which matched up quite nicely on the pivot on the futures as well, and we've continued to sort of push higher following the break of that trend line. Listening to Anthony this morning, and I was just making notes during the briefing, the main things I've sort of got written down is Hawkish FOMC question marks. I wanted to know what happened with the US dollar. Did we get a continuation of the Hawkish Fed? What did that then do to US equities? So we'll have a look at that as well. Obviously, the more hawkish the Fed are, the likelihood it would be that equities would have come down a bit. What does Trump then have to say about this? If the Fed are perceived to be hawkish, is Trump going to be too happy about that? Has he made any comments out? Will he continue to do so if that is the case? Other things I want to sort of be aware of. So Fed, China, we obviously had the currency manipulator backtrack from the Americans last Wednesday or Tuesday when we started coming down quite significantly in equity markets. China, obviously the renminbi on a multi-year low, the Shanghai comp just bouncing off lows on a couple of days ago. So I'd be interested to see as well how that sort of pans out today. So I've got hawkish FOMC question mark, China situation, and then of course Brexit. The main sort of follow through from Brexit is kind of wait and see. In terms of overall choosing for a market to trade, maybe the pound isn't the best one right now until there's something concrete that comes out. We've gone from October to November and now maybe even December on this sort of deal, so everything sort of keeps getting pushed back. You've got the uncertainty which has sort of led to the pound coming under pressure over the last couple of days. However, the last sort of few weeks, if anything's to go by, these positive stories, albeit limited, you're getting a bit more buying pressure into that than if it was the opposite way around. So favouring the upside off a headline rather than not. I think if they keep delaying it, yes, the uncertainty will weigh on the pound there, but it's remains to be seen how much lower it can go on these delays, as sort of the market is quite heavily short. Going over to the dollar, so I mentioned I wanted to see what the sort of follow through from the Fed was. You've got really into the back end of the session here from your sort of 7 o'clock PM UK time when the Fed minutes came out, and we had that continuation of dollar strength from that on sort of the more hawkish sort of rhetoric in most members of the FOMC were had the view of raising rates by 25 basis points. So hawkish reaction, fine, followed through, didn't really materialise this morning. We marked up this level we talked about in the chat earlier for the euro. Really good technical point of interest. You've got the sort of the highs of the 10th that turned into the low on that day. Was also a good area where we tested yesterday before breaking through into sort of the back end of the European session, and now the pivot as well. So holding quite well. In terms of sort of downside targets, as I know a few people were in this, the previous high of the day, albeit at 1 o'clock UK time, on the futures 115.58, is definitely an area I'd be focusing on as a potential point of support, much similar to the euro yesterday, in that the previous level, in this case yesterday, was support, then acted as resistance. So this resistance level can now act as support. Just something to bear in mind. And you know, this would be the market telling me, okay, we sort of unwound that hawkish move, business as usual, not a game changer as such. But you know, we talked about this week about the euro being, I don't know, a bit tricky to trade. There's the uncertainty, which was kind of brushed off early morning on Monday. You now got this half hawkish Fed. Am I buying it? I don't know. I'm not too sure. But look, we've come to the bottom end of the sort of the range that we had from last Wednesday. That's held well, a bit of a false break. So you know, it'll be interesting to see what happens around this level. We broke out this sort of mini range, if you like, yesterday. So for now, overall, I do favour the downside. And I think the pivot is a great area to have got short. And for those that are in, I'll be interested to see where your targets are as well. Are you looking at the similar area or not? Elsewhere, I wanted to see what happened to equities last night. You know, if we're going off this sort of stronger dollar, more hawkish than expected. Remember, you know, going back to the rate hike, the projection is for there to be 3 hikes next year. The market has not priced that in, maybe 1.5 for next year on sort of probability. So, you know, on that, you know, I remember saying maybe there is quite a bit more dollar strength to come over the next few months, and in turn, what's that going to then do to equities? We keep having this rhetoric from Trump, who ain't happy about the way Powell is raising rates, but it's not really getting anywhere. You know, he hasn't backed off in September. December will be really interesting. I think that's a massive meeting. Maybe he gets what he wants there, but you know, remains to be seen. But yeah, last night, following the minutes, I mean choppy, but we did come off better levels, and since then we found a really interesting trend, which you can see has matched up quite a few times, has been rejected as well quite a few times this morning. For an up move, you know, now we're coming into the sort of time where the Americans starting to come to their desk, the volume starts to increase. I like the look of that to break to the upside, and you know, let's have a look, let's see if we can then target the rectangle areas. However, to the downside, got to be thinking about that as well. You've got similar sort of pattern the other way around, so creating this sort of pennant. Will be interesting to see if we actually break through here to the downside, and then you're looking to target the circle areas as well. So decision time coming for the S&P, similar to the Nasdaq. In fact, so I had this marked up for a while. We're coming back now to a really interesting point. If we go back actually to the Wednesday last week, similar sort of pattern, which really, once that had broke, you see you then got the retest, but the move continued, and we all know what happened on the Wednesday last week. So, you know, not to say the move is going to be of the same extent this morning, but a break of that for me significant, and the lows of well, definitely the day, but yesterday could well come into to interest there. I quite like the look of that. Also had written down oil as well. We had a really good opportunity yesterday on that sort of break of that trend line. It's been threatening to go a couple of days, to be honest. If I just bring that in here as well, you had the breakthrough, probably a bit to do with the final push was really to do with the build in inventories, so the opposite of the API. Not that that's that unusual anymore. But yeah, the sort of breakthrough there, and again, look at that, breaking the low of the day. So it does feel, I mean, that chart here looks as similar as the Nasdaq last Wednesday, doesn't it? Break of the trend, retest, and continue lower. So for now, I think you've got to favour oil to the downside. Equities is a wait and see. Equities is a wait and see for me. I'll have a break above there, and sure, we go test yesterday's low, or we break that lower part of the trend line, and we can get down to S1. Say the S&P quite quickly. So decision time coming up, volume starting to pick up as well, so could be a bit of an opportunity there. The euro for now has held well at the pivot. I'll be keeping an eye on that. Calendar wise, so let's have a quick look over at how the day could pan out data wise. If I just bring that into picture, so we had the 9:30 release done. Any reaction? No. Brexit the main driver. Comments as well to be aware of. obviously we've broken that trend line to the upside. So sentiment for now, I will continue to go higher. The dollar perhaps starting to recover a tiny bit, as we saw in euro, above 95 though, following the FOMC, so kind of flat for the session. So we're coming up to midday, 1:30, got the Philly Fed. Look, it can move the market, but it would have to be wildly out of line, and it would be a short-term reaction I would expect, if anything. And then, yeah, lower tier data for the remainder of the day. Going into the afternoon, you've got Fed's Bullard, but non-voter, so it'd have to be something quite hawkish for me to get a move off of that, considering his sort of dovish stance. We've got the remainder of that EU summit meeting into the afternoon, so comments out of that I'll be keeping aware of. But I think it'll be quite an interesting cash open. I think equities at the moment, I say at the moment, from yesterday, we had that break lower, but the buying pressure came back in strong again. We're really getting squeezed in. I think there'll be a good opportunity to come for US equities. Let's have a quick look elsewhere, how we're sort of situated at the moment. The Aussie dollar had pushed higher this morning on the sort of the dollar weakness, if you like, following a bit of strength that we had yesterday evening. I'd also, for the Aussie dollar, I'd be keeping an eye on the China situation. Obviously, they've mentioned that renminbi was at a 21-month low, but I think we could have a bit of a recovery here, and that obviously would pan through to the Aussie dollar. So while I see pound pushing higher over the next few months, not necessarily from right now, I think a long in Aussie dollar might not be the worst idea. Yesterday's high, was a fantastic place to get short, funnily enough, on that sort of retest of the low of the previous low of the second. But a breakthrough of that, I'm interested. I'm interested to have a look to go long if China starts to recover. Elsewhere, gold pushed towards the pivot this morning on that weaker dollar, and I'll be keeping an eye on that 1 test, 2 test. However, if you will start to see the dollar recover a bit, there's an opportunity perhaps on that breakthrough of recent support that we had in almost to follow euro as well to the downside. Mentioned equities, T-notes. I like the look of a short from higher up. Now, whether we can get there today remains to be seen. You've got, if I just bring this into picture here, you've got a breakdown of that trend that we saw last night around here. I like the look of that. That and the pivot, I think, is a very strong level to be aware of. Before that, you've got this bit of a potential retest of a trend. I'll make this a circle for a different kind of trade. Also, you've got there the sort of the previous lows that we broke through. So a couple of opportunities for the short on T-note should we get a retracement touching the lows at the moment. So it remains to be seen, whether in fact we do break to the downside. Oil, I think you've got to go with the short for now. I'll be keeping a look at the low of yesterday for a bit of a retest of that. For the upside, if you always got to half think about where could the reversal come through, and I think if we were to break that trend, maybe this could be something that happens post 2 o'clock when the volume increases, and maybe you get that not showing the charts, so I'm just going to run through those again. Oil, just talking about the price perhaps getting squeezed in. I like the look of a short on the previous low, but I'll draw this with a circle. If we were to get the breakthrough of this trend, I'm interested in the long. Gold, just to go back to that pivot, the key area for today to the upside. If we are to see that dollar recover, and euro could perhaps be the one that really leads that, a breakthrough there. Those are the areas I'm interested in. And the Aussie dollar, just on that longer time frame, I don't think I've shown that. So let's have a quick look. If we were to break above that low of the second, I really like the look of that to sort of be the point where the market can be interested in to sort of look for this recovery, perhaps China-led, keeping an eye on that 20-month low for the renminbi. Any questions, obviously you do get them in chat. I'll put this up on YouTube as well, so if you do want to have a quick listen over. But any questions, let me know. I'm here for the day, and Anthony's on his way back shortly. But I hope you all had a good morning. relatively slow, but things are starting to get interesting, and I would definitely have an eye on those US equities coming to interesting levels, price getting squeezed in. I prefer personally the long. I'd be half interested in the short as well if we technically break that.